Now then, let's take a quick look at the PhD synthetic belay jackets. It's worth just drilling down and spending some, focusing a little bit on the details of the jackets, and how they were designed and what they're used for and who they really suit. There's a few things of notable interest. The first thing, of course, is they're synthetic. They're filled with synthetic insulation, not down. They're designed for very cold conditions, but also potentially very wet conditions. So it's when we're out in the mountains enjoying our selected sport, but the potential to get wet as well as cold is a real threat. Typically here in the UK, we're well aware of it, Scotland, the lakes and Snowdonia, where you can get these winters where you get really cold conditions, or you get a lousy wet day on the hill. So they're really suitable for that sort of thing. They're filled with Primaloft. Now they're filled with Primaloft Gold. Now Primaloft Gold is synthetic wadding, of course, but it's also very water resistant. It really seems to repel water, and I really like that functionality of synthetic Primaloft Gold. The reason we like that is everybody knows that synthetics are better than down in truly wet conditions. They keep their insulation far better. However, if that synthetic wadding has a tendency to mop up water and take on water, the water is replacing the air pockets in the synthetic wadding, so you're beginning to lose the level of insulation you thought you had. You can find yourself in a position where they're only half as warm as you anticipated, because that water is replacing the air that was going to keep you warm. So not only are we looking for a synthetic wadding, you're looking for something that copes with the wet really well and repels it really. And that's why Primaloft Gold is really my favourite of the synthetic waddings. It's also a very soft wadding, so it drapes quite well around you, like down, so it really is a good wadding to use. Now the other thing about this is it doesn't matter whether you're using down or wadding. What you're looking for is depth of loft. The greater the loft, the warmer the insulation you've got there. And so these garments are constructed in a system where the wadding is only stitched together and stitched down on the sides. There's no stitching on the front or the back of the garment, and that is so that we don't compress that wadding where the stitch line is. We leave it to fully loft. So we're trying to get the maximum possible performance out of that wadding that we've used. Now let's have a look. Fabrics, there's two fabrics here. The inner first, I'll just talk about that. That is MX fabric. MX is a very soft and light breathable fabric, but I really like it for this garment because it's also very tough. It's got a superb tear resistance. It's almost strong enough to be used in a parachute. So really like this fabric. Of course you can't slash it with a crampon or an ice axe. Likewise with the outer, crampons really go through anything. So you've got to look after this equipment as always. Right, let's have a look at the outer. That's the really interesting part. We've made these belay jackets out of HS2 fabric. It's a 2-layer waterproof fabric, 2 layers of fully waterproof material there. The first one is, the top layer is a ripstop nylon fabric. That's the protective layer, it's the layer you can see. On that, of course, is a DWR coating when it's made. It's well worth you maintaining that coating, so treat it again fairly regularly and early in the lifespan of the garment, because the DWR treatments bond with the original chemicals applied to that fabric, and it's really worth maintaining that because it improves breathability. If the outer layer wets out, you get a reduced breathability. So keep it clean and keep it proofed with DWR treatments, the sort of thing you get Nick Wax and Granger's, the sort of thing you get in the shops, the climber shops. Okay, so that's the first protective layer. Underneath that layer is the really clever bit. It's a waterproof breathable membrane bonded on to that fabric. It's glued on. You can't see it, it's on the inside. It's the layer that's touching the synthetic wadding. Now that's breathable and waterproof, and that's permanent. It doesn't break down, it lasts the lifetime of the garment. So it's really, really smart technology. Now, let's have a look at the design details. It's a belay jacket, so there's a few things that we've put together on the design. First of all, it's quite long in body. It comes right down onto your hips. It can be cinched down at the base with cord locks to really get a good fit. And the garment is quite long, the zip itself is quite long because we've got a grown-on hood with a very high front to it to really protect around your face. The hood is a helmet-sized hood to work with modern-day large volume helmets, and it's designed to be really locked down and protect you from the elements. It's got a wired peak, it's got cord adjustment at the front. The cord ends are inside the inside of the garment, so they're not swinging around near your eyes. And the back of the hood has a volume adjustment, a volume reducer on the back, so you can really set that hood to work well with your face and your helmet and to really lock it down to protect you. And it really allows you to look up at your lead climber or look down or left to right, and it works very, very well for a belayer. The zips, let's have a look at the zips. The front zip there is a two-way zip. It can be unzipped at the base and it has a stud lock behind it. So the hem can be kept closed, and that allows entry for a rope. So if you're wearing this jacket, if you've got one jacket between two people for the belayer only, and you're swapping the jacket on belay ledges, then you're going to put the jacket on over your harness, and that allows for rope work to come through, but it allows the full length of the jacket to be kept maintained around your thighs there. So it's a two-way zip, and it's a water resistant zip, a YKK Aquaguard zip, and that really improves the performance to prevent and reduce the amount of water going in. It's got an insulated baffle behind it. We've got 3 pockets on these jackets, 2 at the waist and 1 on the chest. Now the 2 at the waist, if you're wearing the jacket over your harness, those 2 pockets are very accessible, perfect for stashing kit while you're belaying. If you're wearing a harness over the jacket, then you've got those pockets may not be accessible because of the harness, but you've got an additional pocket on the chest. Now all these pockets are insulated, they go under thinsulate, and that gives you quite warm pockets for stashing food and things, and also they're large volume pockets, they're big enough to stash big mitts or big gloves and so on, and you've got immediate access from outside the jacket. You don't need to unzip the jacket to access these pockets, they're accessible from outside. In really gnarly weather, you don't really want to open that jacket and release the heat until you're ready to set off on the climb. The reason we've made these long is so that there's extra length in that jacket to go if your harness is over the top. If you're climbing harnesses over the top, one of the things I really hate is when I'm climbing, really stretching up, you've extended your torso and your arms, and your clothing comes out of your climber's harness, particularly around the kidneys and the back. I really hate that. So these jackets are longer to really work with the harness. Finally, the last details are we've got reflect on the chest, for nighttime location, and we've got a clip loop on the back. So if you have chosen the route of one jacket between 2 climbers, the belayer wears it, the climber doesn't, then there's a clip loop to be able to hang it off gear on the face. And the final detail, a couple of details, we've got cuff tabs on the sleeves just so you can lock it underneath mitts or over the top, really get good adjustment. And finally, the zip pulls are longer on this garment. We've got reflective zip pulls and they're long, and that's so they're easy grab with a pair of mitts. So there we go. You've got a closer look there at the jacket. Let's also have a quick look at the smock. Now, the smock is, some people prefer a smock with a shorter zip. For some people it just feels a little bit snugger and a bit more comfortable. So we've made a smock version of all of our belay jackets. This has a short zip, again it's an Aquaguard zip to give increased water resistance for the elements that you're working in. The one big difference is that puts that pocket, those 2 pockets there become a through pocket. You can actually put your hands in and all the way through. So in effect you can put your hands inside the pockets there and join them up, and they can be rubbed together to improve the warmth while you're trying to warm your hands. So that's the difference with the smock. Now interestingly, these belay jackets they were designed around ice climbers, whether it's multi-pitch routes in Scotland where the weather can vary, or whether it's water ice routes in the Alps or Scandinavia. They were designed for that kind of use, but they're also very suitable for other winter mountaineers like skiers and walkers and so on in the mountains, where you've got this scope for beautiful cold crisp days, or a horrible wet and cold day where you're getting really into some unpleasant conditions. That's what these were designed for. But also they've been picked up a lot by mountain rescue teams, where they get this similar set of conditions. They may find themselves on a shout, getting called out, where rapid response is required. They're getting out onto the mountain one way or another. They're often going very fast and very hard, getting hot. When they get there, they may find that they're almost stood down for some time. They're waiting for other members to join, or for specialist team members, medical team members to arrive, or for a helicopter quite often. And in those situations, the mountain rescue team members find themselves in this scenario where any time of day or night they're in really horrible, nasty conditions, can be very cold, very, very wet, and they're really cooling down fast and really are very vulnerable because they're in this particular situation, just like a belayer, where they're stuck on location, stood down effectively, waiting for things to progress. And that's where these belay jackets suit the mountain rescue teams, because they're really very protective pieces of equipment, and they cope well with a full set of horrible conditions. So there we go, a close look at our PhD synthetic belay jacket and the belay smock. Okay, cheers.